Greetings and nice to have you here again on Promotion Exam Study Made Easy, where we simplify the method of reading, whereby you don't stress your eyes, but just sit down comfortably or lie down comfortably and play it. Play it over and over again and you assimilate so much. So this is the revised public service rules which took effect in the year 2023. So we've been treating public service for a while now, and this video is on leave. So this video is basically for leave. So previously on public service rule, we looked at the general definitions and then appointments. Under appointment, we had 4 episodes that covered everything about appointment. From there, we proceeded to discipline, and in discipline, we had 2 episodes that covered discipline. So in this video, as I said, we are now proceeding to leave. And under leave, we shall consider the types of leave. The types of leave. Now, before we go further, if you are yet to subscribe to this channel, please do so. Look around your screen right now. See subscribe, see subscribe, see subscribe, see subscribe. Anywhere around your screen, subscribe. Either in white background or in black background. Kindly hit on it. It's not costing you a dime. You're not paying anything for it. Rather, it is for your own good. The essence is for you to be able to get our materials, both the ones we've uploaded before now and the subsequent ones coming up. So as soon as you upload it, YouTube will be able to bring it to your page. That is the essence of subscribing. And of course, if you find value in friends benefit from it, let your colleagues benefit from it. Kindly share it to them. And of course, we will be glad to have your comments. So my name is Chendo Ebele. Now, going further on leave, now starting leave, we start with the definition of some terms. Then what is leave? Leave is the authorized absence of an officer from duty for a specific period as provided for in this chapter, that is in leave. So it's an authorized absence of an officer from duty for specific period as provided for, because there are different types of leave, and of course the period for each of them differ. So depending on what type of leave. So we have leave address. What is leave address? So leave address is a place where an officer could be reached during his leave period. So if you are applying for your leave, so there is need you also state the address where you'll be reached if need be. So that is leave address. Then end leave. End leave is the leave due to an officer in a year for the service rendered to government. So you end your leave based on the service you've rendered. Then leave any service. Leave any service is a qualifying period of duty before officers could be granted leave. Then date of resumption. The date of resumption is the date following the expiration of leave. So assuming your leave expires today, then you are supposed to resume duty tomorrow. So the day following the date of expiration is the resumption, date of resumption. Then we have leave year. So the leave year is the period that spans from 1st of January to 31st of December of every new year. Then types of leave. So there are various types of leave. So we shall be looking at each of them. So let's name them first. Then after which we consider each one after the other. So we have one, annual leave. Then proportionate leave, which is also known as pro rata leave. So pro rata leave or proportionate leave is a fraction of the annual leave. So it's just like a portion of the annual leave is calculated based on the annual leave of the officer. So a part of it, a proportion of it. That is why it is called proportionate leave. Then we have the deferred leave. Deferred leave had been abolished. So deferred leave is no longer in practice, it's abolished. Then we have casual leave, then sick leave, maternity leave, paternity leave, examination leave, sabbatical leave, study leave with pay, study leave without pay, then leave on compassionate ground, then pre-retirement leave, then leave of absence, leave on grounds of urgent private affairs, then leave for cultural and sporting activities, then we have leave to take part in trade union activities. So these are types of leave. Taking them one after the other, starting with the annual leave. So an annual leave. So an annual leave is the absence of an officer from duty for a period specified in the rule. So every officer, based on your grade level, there is a number of periods that you are entitled to for annual leave. So annual leave is absence of an officer from duty for a period specified in the rule as may be authorized by a superior officer. So your annual leave is authorized by your superior officer. So it's an absence of an officer from duty for a period specified in the as may be authorized by a superior officer. That is annual leave. Then, so we shall now look at annual leave entitlements according to the categories of officers. So annual leave shall be granted in officer in accordance with his grade level as follows. So for grade level 07 and above, that is senior officer, because from senior officer starts from GL 07. So from 07 and above, the leave entitlement is 30 working days, not calendar days, working days. So it's working days. So it's calculated based on working days. Then for grade level 04 to 06, the leave entitlement one working days. And for grade level 03 and below, leave entitlement is 14 working days. So all the leave is based on working days, not calendar days. Then we have qualifying period for annual leave. An officer qualify for annual leave not less than 6 months after the previous leave within a leave earning service. Then annual leave roster. Whose responsibility? It is the responsibility of the head of Department of Human Resource Administration to draw up the annual leave officers in that ministry or extraministerial office. So the roster of responsibility of the head of Department of Human Administration. Then it is the responsibility of every permanent secretary or head of extraministerial office to approve the roster for the coming year, not later than 31st of December. So the head of Department of Human Resource or Administration makes the leave roster, and is approved by the permanent secretary, the head of the extraministerial office, and not later than 31st of December. Then the number of grant of annual leave. Leave shall be granted during the leave year. Normally, the full leave will be taken at one time, but it may be taken in not more than 2 installments. Any leave not taken within the calendar unsigned will be forfeited. No officer is allowed to accumulate leave. Then annual leave abroad. An officer who desires to spend his annual leave abroad shall secretary or head of extraministerial office be proceeding on vacation, and shall provide details of address. Where an officer is required during his vacation leave to undertake any duty, the period of duty will be leave earning and not leave consuming. A period of duty outside Nigeria during an officer's tour will be regarded as Then leave address. An officer spending his leave within or outside Nigeria must furnish the permanent secretary or head of extramural with his or her intended destination address or leave address before proceeding on leave. Then we have date of resumption. An officer is required to resume duty after vacation leave on the date following the expiration of his authorization. Then curtailment of leave. An officer may be required to return to duty before his authorized leave by the permanent secretary or head of extraministerial office. Any portion of his leave so curtailed shall be taken immediately and not later than 90 days of completion of the assignment. Then procedure on return from leave. On return from annual leave, every officer must complete and submit a resumption of duty certificate, Form L10, to his permanent secretary or head of extraministerial office, who will endorse and forward the form to the office of the head of civil service of the federation or to the relevant pool officer or to the relevant pool office. Leave. Proportionate leave. Proportional leave or prorate is a vacation granted to a new or retiring officer in proportion to the he has put into the service. Any service under 30 days is not reckonable. The calculation of proportionate leave shall be done in accordance with the table below. So you have the calculation of proportionate leave. So proportionate leave for graded officers. So we have for grade level 7 and above, for grade levels 04 to 6, and grade level 03 and below. So for 07 and above, normally as we saw is 30 working days. So it's not calculated based on the number of months you spend. So if you now the first row, if you have spent 12 months, 12 calendar months make a year. So if you have spent 12 months, you are entitled to the full annual leave. So for grade level 7 above is 30 days, grade level 4 to 6 21 days, and grade level 3 and below is 14 days. Then if it is 11 months you spend in that leave year, then if you are grade level 7 and above, you are entitled to 28 days, while grade level 4 to 6 is 19 days, and grade level 3 and below is 13 days. Then if you have spent 10 months within that leave year, so your entitlement from grade level 7 and above is 25 days. Please, all these days are working days. So for 10 months, 25 days for grade level 7 and above, 18 days for grade level 4 to 6, and 12 days for grade level 3 and below. Then for 9 months, if you spend 9 months, so from grade level 7 and above, you're entitled to 23 months, then 4 to 6, 16 months, then 3 and below, 11 months. Then if you have spent 8 months, so grade level 7 and above, 20 working days, 4 to 6, 14 working days, and 3 and below, 9 working days. So if you have spent 7 months, it's 18 days, 13 days, 8 days respectively. Then for 6 months, 15 days, 11 days, 7 days respectively. Then for 5 months, 12 days, 9 days, 6 days respectively. Then for 4 months, 10 days, 8 days, 5 days respectively. And for 3 months, 7 days, 6 days, 4 days respectively. And for 2 months, 5 days, 4 days, 3 days respectively. And for 1 month, 3 days, 2 days, and 1 day respectively, all working days. So the computation is based on working days. In fact, each of them is calculated based on the full annual leave. It's a proportion of your annual leave. So based on what you are entitled to, so a proportion of it is what is being calculated. Then from there, we proceed to officer entitled to pro rata leave. So an officer who joins the federal public service during the course of the leave year will not normally be granted an annual leave, but a proportionate leave, because of course it's considered that that officer will not spend a complete 12 months within that year. Then B, officers who attend courses of instruction or training over a period of 6 months shall be entitled to proportionate leave for the period they put in service. Then C, an officer who is retiring within the period of leave earning service shall be entitled to proportionate leave. Then we have casual leave. Casual leave. So casual leave is the absence of an officer from duty for a short period not exceeding an aggregate of 7 calendar days within a leave year, as may be authorized by a superior officer. Then casual leave shall only be granted after an officer has exhausted his annual leave. Then limits for casual leave. A maximum of 7 days casual leave shall be granted in any leave year. Casual leave in excess of 7 days in any leave year may be granted only by the permanent secretary or head of extraministerial office. Then we have sick leave. So sick leave is the absence of an officer from duty on an account of ill health as authorized by a healthcare provider. Then we have maternity leave. Maternity leave is the authorized absence from duty of a serving female officer granted by a superior officer on account of pregnancy, covering the prenatal and postnatal periods. The maternity leave duration. A female staff that is pregnant is entitled to 112 working days maternity leave at a stretch, beginning not less than 28 working days from the expected date of delivery with full pay. A medical certificate showing the expected date of confinement must be presented not less than 2 months before that date. The annual leave for that year will, however, be regarded as part of the maternity leave. Where this annual leave has already been enjoyed before the grant of maternity leave, that part of the maternity leave equivalent to the annual leave will be without payment of salary. Where a female officer adopts a child under 4 months old, the officer shall enjoy 84 working days maternity leave. Then paternity leave. Paternity leave is the authorized absence of a serving male officer granted by his superior officer from duty shortly before or after delivery by his spouse for a period of 14 working days and not more than once in 2 years for a maximum of 4 children. Where a family of male officer adopts a child under 4 months old, the male officer will enjoy a leave for a period of 14 working days. Then 2, request for such leave shall be accompanied by expected date of delivery report of his wife or evidence of approval of the adoption. Then time off for nursing mothers. Any female officer who is nursing a child shall be granted 2 hours of duty every day. This facility shall be granted up to a maximum period of 6 months from the date she resumes duty from maternity leave. Then leave for compulsory examination. An officer may be granted special leave for the purpose of taking an examination which he is required to pass by the condition of services of his appointment. Then leave for non-compulsory examination. An officer may be allowed special leave with full pay to take an examination, the passing of which is not a condition of his current appointment, provided that his permanent secretary or head of extraministerial office satisfies the following: A, that the passing of the examination is likely to enhance his value to the service. B, evidence of admission for the course. And C, evidence of timetable for the examination. Then we have sabbatical leave. Sabbatical leave, as applies to the public service, is the absence of an officer on grade level 15 or equivalent and above from duty for the purpose of research or to avail an employee the opportunity to step back from primary duty post for a professional development linked to career progression for improved service delivery. So it may be taken within or outside Nigeria. The goal is for the officer to return to work with enhanced skills or better performance. Applicants must tender evidence of acceptance from receiving organization. The leave shall be for a period of 12 calendar months, once in 5 years. Please note that sabbatical leave is only for officers from grade level 15 and above. Then we have procedure for sabbatical leave. Only confirmed officers not under a performance improvement plan or disciplinary action are allowed to proceed on sabbatical leave. The request must be at the instance of the officer through written application to his superior 6 months in advance, and the assessment of benefiting officer must be of high performance record. Sabbatical leave shall be closely linked to career progression in service. Then B, it must be ensured that the leave is taken not to coincide with a national assignment or significant project period that the applicant plays a critical role. The applicant's MDA must certify that the staff member can be released to undertake sabbatical leave without replacement or impairing the smooth flow of work of the concerned department. Then C, the request for sabbatical leave on the recommendation of the permanent secretary shall be forwarded to Office of the Head of Civil Service of the Federation for approval. Then the period of sabbatical leave shall not be regarded as a break in service. Then we have D. Officers on sabbatical leave shall return to work immediately after completion of the leave and submit a notification of return to duty except where an extension is granted. Failure to do so shall be construed as a serious misconduct and attract appropriate penalty. Then E. In addition, all officers returning from sabbatical leave must submit a formal report on academic or administrative work accomplished during the leave period. Then F. Officer on sabbatical leave shall not be granted notional promotion. However, such officers shall be eligible to sit for promotion or for promotion interview or examination at the nearest designated centers. Then G. Upon an officer's return from sabbatical leave, he must work for government for a period of 1 year before exiting from service. Then I. All approvals and questions of interpretations on sabbatical leave shall be referred to the Office of Head of Civil Service of the Federation. Then and H. When an officer is on sabbatical leave, he shall continue to enjoy his emolument within the period. So we now have study leave. Study leave is the leave granted to a confirmed serving officer to undertake an approved course of study within or outside the country. They will have types of study leave. So there are 3 types of study leave, namely leave for in-service training, study leave with pay, and study leave without pay. So leave for in-service training, study leave with pay, and study leave without pay are the types of study leave. Then an officer may be granted study leave with pay, study leave without pay, or in-service training, provided that his permanent secretary or head of extraministerial office satisfies the following: 1. Evidence of letter of admission. B. Evidence of duration of the course. Then 3. That the course is necessary to enhance the performance of the officer and to add value to the service. And then 4. That the course is relevant to the officer's profession. So there are the things that the PAMSEC has to consider before granting study leave, whether with pay or without pay or in service. Then in-service training. Officers shall be granted in-service training for a period of 3 to 4 years with normal emoluments, allowances, and course fees. In-service training shall be granted when the course is crucial to the MDA. Then study leave with pay. Study leave with pay shall be granted to an officer with normal emoluments. The duration of study leave with pay shall not exceed 2 years. This is granted when the course of study is relevant to the mandate of the MDA and the schedule of duty of the concerned officer. If, however, there is acceptable justification, 1 year extension may be granted. Any course of study that cannot be accommodated within 3 years, inclusive of 1 year extension, should be considered for study leave without pay or part-time. This is, however, without prejudice to the privileges granted to awardees of the Presidential Special Scheme for Innovation and Development. Then study leave without pay. Officers are granted study leave without pay where the proposed courses of study are not contained in the approved training program MDAs, but relevant to the officer's career prospects or self-development. Then conditions for study leave without pay. The conditions for study leave without pay are as follows. Officers on study leave without pay are not entitled to normal emoluments and allowances. Then 2. The duration of study leave without pay shall not be more than 4 years in the first instance, after which the officer can apply for 1 year extension if the need arises. And then 3. The period of study shall not be regarded as break in service. So we now have approval to proceed on study leave. The release of an officer on study leave shall be subject to the approval of the head of civil service of the Federation on the recommendation of the officer's permanent secretary or head of extraministerial office. Then leave for religious purpose. Officers going on religious pilgrimage other than officials assigned to cover such activities should use part of their annual leave for such purposes. Then leave on compassionate ground. An officer may be allowed special leave from duty on full pay on compassionate ground for a period up to 2 weeks for burial of spouse, child, parents, then parents of spouse. Then leave of absence. Leave of absence is absence of an officer from duty authorized on grounds of public policy. All such leave shall be approved by the head of the civil service of the Federation on the recommendation of the permanent secretary or head of extraministerial office and shall be without pay. So leave of absence is without pay. and is approved by head of service and with the recommendation from the permanent secretary or head of extra ministerial office. Then we have paid appointments during leave. An officer on leave of absence shall not accept any paid employment without previously obtaining the express approval from the office of the head of civil service of the Federation. Then we have types of leave of absence. The various types of leave of absence are: 1. Leave of absence to join spouse on course of instruction of not less than 9 months duration abroad. Then B. Special leave of absence to join spouse on grounds of public policy. C. Leave of absence on grounds of public policy for technical aid programs. Then we have D. Leave of absence for special or personal assistance on grounds of public policy. And then we have E. Leave of absence for spouse of presidents, vice presidents, governors, deputy governors on grounds of public policy. Then we have leave of absence not to cover political appointments. So leave of absence shall not cover such appointments as secretary to government of the Federation, ministers, secretary to state government, commissioners, or any other political appointment. So political appointments are not covered by leave of absence. An officer who is offered and accepted such appointment is deemed to have resigned from service from the date of his acceptance of that offer. Then leave of absence to join spouse on course of instruction abroad. An officer who is also a public servant shall be permitted to join his spouse proceeding abroad on a course of instruction. The officer is eligible for free passage at government expense, where the course of instruction is not less than 9 months. Then we have special leave of absence to join spouse on grounds of public policy. On grounds of public policy, the spouse of a serving officer may be granted leave without pay for a period not exceeding 5 years to enable him join his spouse on posting abroad on the following conditions. A. That the officer's spouse be disallowed from taking up gainful employment. So the spouse must not take any gainful employment. B. That such leave shall not be regarded as break in service. Then C. Where such spouses improve themselves by acquiring additional qualifications which enhance their usefulness to the service, they shall be considered for advancement in consonance with the prevailing regulations. Then we have D. The period a spouse can be on leave of absence shall be 4 years in the first instance and subject to an extension of not more than 1 year. Then we have leave of absence for technical aid corps program. In order to preserve the terminal benefits of officers selected for technical aid corps program by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and ensure the continuity of their service, such officers shall be granted leave of absence on grounds of public policy. Then leave of absence for special or personal assistance. Appointees of federal public service who accept appointment as special or personal assistance to political office holder are required to apply to the head of the civil service of the Federation for leave of absence on grounds of public policy if they intend to return to the service at the end of the assignment. Then leave of absence for spouses of the president, vice president, governors, and deputy governors. The spouses of the president, vice president, governors, Deputy governors who are public servants are required to apply to the head of the Civil Service of the Federation for leave of absence on grounds of public policy to join their spouses during their tenure of office. Then 3 months pre-retirement leave. Give 3 months notice to retire from service, the effective date of retirement. At the commencement of 3 months, officers should proceed immediately on the mandatory 1 month pre-retirement workshop or seminar. For the remaining 2 months, retiring officers are expected to take necessary measures to put their records straight so as to facilitate the speedy processing of their retirement benefits. They will have leave on permanent invalidation. When a medical board recommends that an officer is medically unfit to continue in service and for that reason be disengaged, he will forthwith commence vacation leave period to retirement. The length of leave granted shall be 2 months and will commence on the day on which the medical board declares him unfit to continue in service, and retirement will take effect from its expiration. They will have overstaying leave. An officer who, without an acceptable excuse, fails to resume duty on the approved date after vacation leave will be regarded as absent without leave and without pay. No officer shall extend his vacation leave beyond the date specified in his leave advice without the consent of his or her permanent secretary or head of extraministerial office. They will have dismissal. Officers who are dismissed shall not be entitled to any form of leave. So dismissed officers are not entitled to any form of leave at all. Then leave to be on working days leave, exclusive of Saturday, Sundays, and public holidays. Annual vacation leave shall be based on working days. The period of any other leave, such as casual leave, sick leave, maternity leave, etc., granted under these rules shall not be inclusive of Saturdays, Sundays, and public holidays occurring therein. So that is that for leave. So we are proceeding now to the quiz. So please, if you are yet to subscribe, even at this moment, kindly do so, except you don't find value on this. And of course, if you don't find value on it, you will not stay up to this end. So check around. If you are yet to subscribe or you've forgotten, kindly do so before we proceed to the quiz. And in the quiz, we have options. Try as much as possible to guess what should be the right answer. We see the correct answer. So try to evaluate yourself, know how much you assimilate, in preparation for your exam. So for each question, try to note the answer on your own before you finally see the correct answer. So question 1 of these best define the word leave. A. Absence from an officer from duty for specified period. B. The period of absence of an officer from duty. C. Authorized absence of an officer from duty for specific period as provided for. And then C. Absence of an officer from duty for the purpose of research. So note your answers. Question 2. Leave address can be said to be, what is leave address? A. A place where an officer could be reached during his leave period. B. An officer's hometown. C. Officers giving address at the time of engagement. Officers giving address at the time, TIME, of engagement. Then D. Officer's residence address. Question 3. What is earned leave? What is earned leave? A. The leave officer enjoys to attend to personal issues. B. The leave due to an officer in a year for the service rendered to the government. C. Absence from duty granted by a superior officer. Then C. Leave for the purpose of joining spouse on a course not less than 9 months. So quickly looking at the answers. So for question 1 that says which of these is best define the word leave. Of course, leave is authorized. So that the correct option is C. Is an authorized absence of an officer from duty for specific period as provided for. Then for question 2 that says leave address, of course, is a place where an officer could be reached during his leave period. Then question 3 that says what is earned leave? So earned leave is the leave due to an officer in a year for the service rendered to the government. So proceeding to question 4. What do you understand by leave earning service? Leave earning service. A. The service rendered to government while not on leave. B. Is a qualifying period of duty before officer could be granted leave. C. Leave calculated based on grade level. And D. Leave granted based on service rendered. So question 5. In consideration of leave, what is the date of resumption of duty? A. Is the last date period to the expiration of the leave. B. Is the date the leave expires. C. Is the date the leave commenced. And D. Is the date following the expiration of the leave. Question 6. Leave year is the, what is leave year? Leave year is the A. Is the period from January to December officer is entitled to leave. B. Is the period an officer enjoys going on vacation. C. Is the period between 1st January and 31st December. And of course D. Is the year an officer enjoys leave. So quickly note your answers. So looking at the answers for question 4 that say what do you understand by leave earning service? So leave earning service is a qualifying period of duty before officer could be granted leave. And for question 5 that says in consideration of leave, what is the date of resumption of duty? Of course, date of resumption of duty is the date following the expiration of the leave. That's option D. Then for question 6 that say leave year is the, of course, leave year is the period between 1st January and 31st December. That is option C. Question 7. Mention any 10 types of leave. So mention 10 types of leave. On your own, try to mention and see how much you can mention. So we have annual leave, pro rata leave, deferred leave, casual leave, sick leave, maternity leave. Please always remember that deferred leave is abolished, so you don't need to mention it. Maternity leave, then paternity leave, examination leave, sabbatical leave, study leave with pay, study leave without pay, leave on compassionate grant, pre-retirement leave, leave of absence. We have also leave on grounds of urgent private affairs. Then leave for cultural and sporting activities. And we also have leave to take part in trade union activities. So these are types of leave. So how many were you able to mention? So question 8. What time can leave be granted during a leave year? So what time can leave be granted? So A. Is it after January during the leave year? B. Is it January to September during the leave year? Or C. Is it at the beginning of festivals during the leave year? Or D. Any time during the leave year? So what time? So quickly, the correct option for question 8 is, of course, any time during the leave year. Leave can be granted any time within the leave year. Question 9. Which of these best defines annual leave? A. Is the absence of an officer from duty for a period specified in the rules as may be authorized by a superior officer. B is the absence of an officer from duty for a period specified in the rule as may be authorized by the permanent secretary or head of a ministerial office. So C is the authorized absence of an officer from duty to attend to urgent private affairs. And D is the absence of an officer from duty for a period of 30 days as may be authorized by a superior officer. So which is the correct option? Question 10. When can an officer qualify for annual leave? A. An officer shall qualify for annual leave if he is employed any time from July. B. An officer shall qualify for annual leave if he has served up to 3 months. C. An officer shall qualify for annual leave not less than 6 months after the previous leave within a leave earning service year. And D. An officer shall qualify for annual leave not less than 4 months after the previous leave within a leave earning service. So quickly, your correct options. So looking at the correct options, so for question 9, that says which of these best define annual leave? And of course, annual leave is the absence of an officer from duty for a specified period in the rule as may be authorized by a superior officer. Of course, annual leave is authorized by superior officer, and the number of days depends on your grade level. Then for question 10, that says when can an officer qualify for annual leave? And of course, an officer shall qualify for annual leave not less than 6 months after the previous leave within a leave any year. That is option C. So must not be less than 6 months after returning from the previous leave within the year. Question 11. Whose responsibility shall it be to draw up the annual leave roster for all officers in that ministry or extraministerial office? Is it the responsibility of the department of the officer? Okay, the responsibility of the head of the department of the officer. B, the divisional head of the officer. C, the permanent secretary or head of extraministerial office. And the Department of Human Resource Administration. So whose duty to draw up the annual leave roster? Then we have question 12. Whose responsibility is it to approve the leave roster for the coming year not later than 31st December? A, the head of Department of Human Resource Administration. So we are talking of whose responsibility is it to now approve it. Then B, the Honorable Minister. C, the permanent secretary or head of extraministerial office. Then D, the head of department of the officer. Then question 13. For questions 13 to 15, match each of the salary grade officers with their expected annual leave entitlements. So for each of the grades, match them with their expected annual leave entitlements. So you have for grade level 04 to 06, then for grade level 7 to and above, and grade for level 3 and below. So then the options are I 21 working days, I 28 working days, then I 14 working days, then we have 7 working days, and you have 30 working days. So you have to match each of them. So quickly going through the correct options. So for question 11, that says whose responsibility shall be to draw up the annual leave roster for all officers in that ministry? Is the responsibility of the head of Department of Human Resource Administration. That is option D. Then for question 12, whose responsibility is it to approve the leave roster for coming year not later than 31st December? And of course, is the responsibility of the permanent secretary. Is the responsibility of the permanent secretary to approve the roster drawn by the head of Department of Human Resource or Administration. Then for question 13. So officers on grade level 04 to 06, so their leave entitlement is 21 working days. 21 working days. While for the officers on grade level 7 and above, their leave entitlement is 30 working days. 30 working days. And for grade level 3 and below, their leave entitlement is 14 working days. 14 working days. So moving forward to question 16. Question 16 says, the full annual leave shall be taken in a maximum of how many installments? The full annual leave shall be taken in a maximum of how many installments? So we have A, 3 installments, B, 2 installments, C, 4 installments, and D, 1 installment. Question 17. Which of the following is correct for a leave not taken within the calendar year concerned? A, it shall be accumulated for the following year. B, it shall be postponed to any year the officer desire. C, it shall be forfeited. And D, it can be converted to casual leave for other years. So which is the correct for a leave not taken within the calendar year concerned? Question 18. What is an officer who desires his annual leave abroad expected to do? So an officer who wishes to spend his annual leave abroad, what is he expected to do? A, to inform the permanent secretary or head of a ministerial office before proceeding on vacation and shall provide details of his leave address. B, to inform the permanent secretary or head of a ministerial office before proceeding on vacation. Then C, inform his head of department before proceeding on vacation and shall provide details of his leave address. And then D, he shall furnish the permanent secretary or head of a ministerial office with details of his Nigerian leave address. So, looking at the correct options from question 11 that says the full annual leave shall be taken in a maximum of how many installments? It's a maximum of 2 installments. Normally it shall be taken at a stress, but whereby it's not possible, as you say, you can take it in 2 installments, not more than 2 installments. So either once or maximum 2 installments. Then for question 17, which of the following is correct for a leave not taken within the calendar year? Of course, any leave not taken within the calendar year shall be forfeited. It shall be forfeited. That is option C. Then for question 18, what is an officer who desires to spend his annual leave abroad expected to do? Of course, the officer will inform the permanent secretary and of course provide his leave address. That is option A. Inform the permanent secretary or head of a ministerial office before proceeding on vacation and shall provide details of his leave address. So that is what he's supposed to do. So moving forward, question 19. Where an officer is required during his vacation leave to undertake any duty, the period of duty will be, is A, is it a leave consuming, or leave forfeited, or leave postponed, or leave earning? So what shall it be? Question 20. When an officer is required to return to duty before the expiration of his authorized leave by the permanent secretary or head of a ministerial office, the portion of his leave curtailed shall be taken when? So when shall it be taken? A, not later than 90 days of completion of the assignment within the leave year. B, any other time within the leave year. C, first month of the following year. And then D, not later than 6 days of completion of the assignment within the leave year. So question 21. Which of these categories of officers cannot be granted proportionate leave? So which of them cannot be granted proportionate leave? So you have A, officers who attend courses of instruction or training over a period of 6 months. B, newly engaged officers. C, officers on special assignment for 3 months. Then D, retiring officer. So who cannot be granted proportional leave? So quickly seeing the correct answer for each of them. So starting with question 19 that says, where an officer is required during his vacation leave to undertake any duty, the period of duty will be what? It shall be leave earning. It shall be leave earning. That is option D. Then for question 20 that says, when an officer is required to return to duty before the expiration of his authorized leave by permanent secretary or head of extramural office, the portion of his leave curtailed shall be taken when? So it shall be taken, of course, not later than 90 days of completion of his assignment within the leave year. So immediately he completes the assignment, so it shall be taken not later than 90 days. So not later than 90 days of completion of the assignment. So the portion of the leave curtailed shall hence be taken not later than 90 days from the time of completion of the assignment. Then for question 21, which of these categories of officer cannot be granted proportionate leave? So those that cannot be granted proportionate leave are the officers on special assignment for 3 months. They are not entitled for proportionate leave. But for retiring officers, yes, they are entitled. For newly engaged officers, yes, they are entitled. Then for officers who attend courses of instruction over a period of 6 months, yes, they are entitled. But for officers on special assignment for 3 months, they are not entitled for proportionate leave. Then for question 22, Dash endorses the resumption of duty certificate from L10 completed by officers returning from annual leave and forwarded to. So who endorses this resumption of duty certificate form and then forward to who? So A, the head of department endorses and forward to the permanent secretary or head of extramural office or the relevant pool office. So who endorses and whom does it forward to? B, the permanent secretary or head of extramural office endorses and forward to the office of the head of civil service of the federation or to the relevant pool office. Then C, head of the civil service of the federation endorses and forwards to the Federal Civil Service Commission. So who endorses? Then YD says permanent secretary or head of extramural office endorses and forward to the Federal Civil Service Commission. So note your answer. So for question 23 says, which of the following leaves shall not be granted to an officer who joins the federal public service during the course of the leave year? So which of the following leaves should not be granted to an officer who joins the federal public service during the course of the leave year? So we have A, the proportionate leave, B, the sick leave, then C, the casual leave, then D, the annual leave. So quickly looking at the correct answer. So from question 22 that says who endorses, is the permanent secretary that endorses, and when permanent secretary endorses, he now forwards to the office of the head of civil service of the federation or the relevant pool office. That is option B. So permanent secretary endorses the resumption of duty certificate form L10 completed by the office returning from the annual leave and forwards to head of civil service of the federation or the relevant pool office. Then for question 23, which of the following leaves shall not be granted to an officer who joins the federal public service during the course of the leave? Of course, anybody that joins the federal public service during the leave year is not entitled for annual leave, because he would have not spent 12 calendar months. So he will not be granted annual leave. That is option D. Question 24. What is pro rata leave? So pro rata leave: A, is a vacation granted to a new or retiring officer in proportion to the number of days he has put into the service, which shall not be less than 30 days. B is a vacation granted to an officer returning from sick leave in proportion to the number of days he has put into the service, which shall not be less than 30 days. Then C is a vacation granted to an officer returning from assignment abroad in proportion to the number of days he has put into the service, which shall not be less than 30 days. Then D is a vacation granted to a new officer engaged on the 1st of December. So what is proper? What is a pro rata leave? Then question 25. When can casual leave be granted? So when can casual leave be granted? A, only be granted on emergency case. Then B, only be granted after exhausting the annual leave. Then C, only be granted after study leave. And then D, only be granted only before enjoying annual leave. So quickly, the correct options. So for question 24, that say what is pro rata leave? So pro rata leave is a vacation granted to a new or retiring officer in proportion to the number of days he has put into the service, which shall not be less than 30 days. That is the correct option. Option A. Then for question 25, that say when can casual leave be granted? Of course, you have to exhaust your annual leave before you can ask for casual leave. So option D, only before. Okay, so option only be granted after study. No, only be granted after. B, only be granted after exhausting annual leave. So casual leave can only be granted after you must have exhausted your annual leave. That is option B. Question 26. What is casual leave? What is casual leave? So is the A is the absence of an officer from duty for a short period not exceeding an aggregate of 7 calendar days within a leave year as may be authorized by superior officer. Then B is the absence of an officer from duty for a specified period according to grade level authorized by superior officer. C is the authorized absence of an officer from duty to take part in union activities authorized by superior officer. Then D is the absence of an officer from duty for a short period not exceeding an aggregate of 7 calendar days within a leave year as may be authorized by the permanent secretary or head of extraministerial office. Then for question 27, if a family of male officer adopts a child under 4 months old, the male officer will enjoy a leave for a period of. So what is the leave entitlement of the male officer whose family adopted a child less than 4 months? So A, 21 working days, B, 14 working days, C, 14 calendar days, and then D, 7 working days. Note that calendar days is different from working days. So what is the leave entitlement for a male officer whose family adopts a child under 4 months? So quickly, the correct options for question 26 that says what is casual leave? And of course, casual leave is the absence of an officer from duty for a short period not exceeding an aggregate of 7 calendar days within a leave year as may be authorized by superior officer. Is authorized by superior officer. And of course, for question 27, when the family of a male officer adopts a child, the male officer is entitled to 14 working days. 14 working days. Be option B. So going further, question 28. Whose authority is it to grant casual leave in excess of 7 days in a leave year? Whose authority is it to grant casual leave in excess of 7 days in a leave year? A, the director of the department of the officer. B, the head of the civil service of the federation. C, the permanent secretary or head of extraministerial office. And then D, the officer's superior officer. Question 29. Which of these best defines sick leave? How do we define sick leave? A is the absence of an officer from duty on account of ill health authorized by a superior officer. B is the absence of an officer from duty on account of ill health as authorized by the permanent secretary or head of a ministerial office. C is the absence of an officer from duty on account of ill health as authorized by a healthcare provider. And then D is the authorized absence of an officer from duty to visit the hospital. So quickly, the option for question 28 that says whose authority is it to grant casual leave in excess of 7 days in the leave year. So the correct option is the permanent secretary that can grant that leave when the casual leave is in excess of 7 days in a leave year, is the permanent secretary. Then question 29, which of these best defines sick leave? Of course, sick leave is authorized by a healthcare provider. So it's the absence of an officer from duty on an account of ill health as authorized by a healthcare provider. Question 30. Which of the following best defines maternity leave? What is maternity leave? A is the authorized absence from duty of a serving female officer granted by a superior officer on account of pregnancy covering the prenatal and postnatal periods. B is the authorized absence from duty of a serving female officer who is medically confined. C is the authorized absence from duty of a serving female officer to join spouse. And D is authorized absent from duty of a serving pregnant female officer. Question 31. The following shall govern the request for paternity leave except, so the request for paternity leave, so what shall govern it? The request shall govern the request for paternity leave except, so A, request for paternity leave shall be accompanied by expected date of report of his wife or evidence of approval of the adoption. So is that part of it? B, paternity leave shall not be more than once in 2 years. So is that true about paternity leave? Then C, paternity leave shall commence 28 days before or after delivery. Then D, paternity leave shall be of a maximum of 4 children. So quickly looking at the correct options. The correct options starting from question 30 that says which of the following best defines maternity leave? And of course, maternity leave is the authorized absence from duty of a serving female officer granted by a superior officer on account of pregnancy covering the prenatal and postnatal periods. Then for question 31 that says the following shall govern the request for paternity leave except, of course, the paternity leave shall commence 28 days before and or after delivery. No, this is false. The paternity leave shall commence immediately. It shall commence shortly before or after delivery. So, but every other ones are applicable, and of course, it shall not be more than maximum of 4 children, and it shall not be more than once in every 2 years. And the officer must provide evidence of delivery, the expected date of delivery report of his wife, or evidence of approval of the adoption. And it shall commence shortly before or after, not 28 days before. So the correct option that is not applicable is C. So paternity leave shall commence 28 days before or after delivery, which is false. So question 32. What is the duration of a maternity leave for a pregnant serving female officer? A, 112 working days. B, 120 working days. C, 84 working days. D, 4 calendar months. So what is the duration of maternity leave for a pregnant serving female officer? Then 32. When is the maternity leave granted to be a pregnant serving female officer expected to commence? So when is it to commence? When shall maternity leave commence? A. Should it commence first date of the delivery? B. Not less than 30 working days from the expected date of delivery. C now. Not less than 28 working days from the expected date of delivery. And then D. Not less than 2 months from the expected date of delivery. Question 34. All of these are applicable for grant of maternity leave to a pregnant serving female officer except A. Medical certificate showing the expected date of confinement must be presented not less than 2 months before that date. B. The annual leave for that year will be granted as part of the maternity leave. Then C. Maternity leave shall be at a stretch covering both prenatal and postnatal without pay. Then D. If the officer had already enjoyed the annual leave before the grant of maternity leave, that part of the maternity leave equivalent to the annual leave will be without pay of salary. So quickly looking at the correct options. So for question 32 that says, what is the duration of a maternity leave for a pregnant serving female officer? Of course, a pregnant serving female officer is entitled to 112 working days. Option A, 112 working days. Then for question 33 that says, when is the maternity leave granted to a pregnant serving female officer expected to commence? Of course, it's expected to commence not less than 28 working days from the expected date of delivery. Not less than 28 working days from the expected date of delivery. Then for question 34 that says, all of these are applicable for grant of maternity leave to a pregnant serving female officer except of course the one that is not applicable is option C that says maternity leave shall be at a stretch. Yes, it is true, it shall be at a stretch covering both prenatal and postnatal, yes, but without pay, no. So this without pay disqualifies it because maternity leave is with pay. So it's at a stretch and it covers prenatal and postnatal, but it is with pay. So the without pay disqualifies it. So option C is the correct option. So moving forward to question 35. What is paternity leave? What is paternity leave? A. Paternity leave is the authorized absence of a serving male officer granted by his superior officer from duty shortly before or after delivery by his spouse for a specified period. B. Is the authorized absence of a serving female officer granted by the superior officer from duty shortly before or after delivery. C. Is the authorized absence of a serving female officer granted by the superior officer from duty shortly before or after delivery of her daughter. Then D. Is the absence of a serving male officer from duty for a specified period shortly before or after delivery by his spouse granted by the permanent secretary or head of his ministerial office, head of extra ministerial office. Question 36. The duration of paternity leave is A. 7 working days, B. 14 calendar days, C. 21 working days, and D. 14 working days. So quickly, the correct option for question 35 that says, what is paternity leave? Of course, paternity leave is the authorized absence of a serving male officer granted by his superior. It's his superior that grants it by his superior officer from duty shortly before or after delivery by his spouse for a specified period. So that is correct option A. So for question 36, the duration of paternity leave, of course, is 14 working days. That is option D, 14 working days. So moving forward, question 37. Which of these does a nursing female serving officer who just resumed office after maternity leave enjoys? So what does a female officer who just resumed duty after maternity leave, what does she enjoy? A, light duty for a period of 6 months. B, 2 hours of duty every day for 6 months. C, 3 hours of duty every day for a period of 6 months. And then D, 2 hours of duty every day for 3 months. Question 38. When an officer is required to pass a certain examination, which is a condition of service for his appointment, he can be granted dash to take the exam. A, casual leave, annual leave, sabbatical leave, or special leave. So what can he be granted to take the exam? Whose condition of service for the appointment? Which person is a person is a condition of the service for his appointment. So what kind of leave shall he be granted? Question 39. Which of these is not required for the purpose of granting special leave with pay? Special leave with full pay to take an examination where the passing of the examination is not a condition of the officer's appointment. So, which of these is not required for the purpose of granting special leave with full pay to take an examination where the passing of the examination is not required? So where the passing of the examination is not a condition of the officer's appointment. So A, the approved permission to undertake the course. B, the evidence of the timetable for the examination. C, the passing of the examination is likely to enhance his value to the service. Then D, evidence of admission for the course. So which is not required for the purpose of granting a special leave with full pay to an officer to take an examination where the passing of the exam is not a condition of the officer's appointment. So quickly looking at the correct options. So looking at the correct options from question 37. Question 37 that says, which of these does a nursing female serving officer who just resumed office after maternity leave enjoy? So what does she enjoy? Of course, she enjoys 2 hours of duty every day for 6 months. That is option B. So the female serving officer enjoys 2 hours of duty every day for 6 months. Then for question 38 that says, when an officer is required to pass a certain examination, which is a condition of service for his appointment, he shall be granted what kind of leave? He can be granted special leave. So the officer can be granted special leave to take the examination. Then for question 39 that says, which of these is not required for the purpose of granting special leave with full pay to take an examination where the passing of the examination is not a condition of the officer's appointment? So which is not required? Look at them again. Let's look at them again. So the approved permission to undertake the course, of course this is not required, but every other thing is required. The evidence of timetable, yes, is required. The passing of the examination is likely to enhance it, of course. Then the evidence of the admission for the course, but it does not need the approved permission to undertake the course, so that is not required. So the correct option, so there's 7B, 38D, and 39A. So moving forward, question 40. Question 40. Sabbatical leave is best defined as, so what is sabbatical leave? A, the authorized absence of an officer on grade level 15 or equivalent and above from duty for the purpose of research or to avail an employee the opportunity to step back from primary duty post for a professional development linked to career progression for improved service delivery. B, the authorized absence of a senior serving officer from duty for the purpose of research or to avail an officer the opportunity to step back from primary duty post for a professional development linked to career progression for improved service delivery. C, the authorized absence of a serving officer from duty for the purpose of joining spouse on foreign mission. Then D, the authorized absence of an officer on grade level 15 or equivalent and above from duty for the purpose of undertaking a 4-year course of study for improved service delivery. So, which of them best describes sabbatical leave? Of course, the correct option is first, sabbatical leave is given to officer on grade level 15 and above first, and is for research purpose. So that is option A is the correct definition. So it's the authorized absence of an officer on grade level 15 or equivalent and above from duty for the purpose of research or to avail an employee the opportunity to step back from primary duty post for a professional development linked to career progression. That's option A. So that is the best definition for sabbatical leave. So question 41. Question 41. Mention any 4 things enjoyed by a female serving officer. So what are the 4 things that a female serving officer enjoys? A. So mention them. So number 1, maternity. The female serving officer enjoys maternity leave of 112 working days for a pregnant female officer, and also enjoy 84 working days for a female officer who adopts a child under 4 months. So maternity leave. So that is maternity leave 112 for the female a pregnant female officer, and then for a female officer who adopts a child 84 working days. So maternity leave is one of them. 2, of course, when the female officer resumes from maternity leave, she is equally entitled to 2 hours of duty every day for 6 months. Then also enjoy light duty during pregnancy. So if the pregnancy is giving her issue with performing her duty, she can be considered for a lighter duty. And of course, if there is any disciplinary action upon her while on maternity leave, it has to be suspended until after the maternity leave. So suspension of disciplinary case until after resumption from maternity leave. So that is the 4 things she enjoys. Question 42. Which of these is not correct about sabbatical leave? Which is not correct about sabbatical leave? So A, applicants must tender evidence of acceptance from receiving organization. B, the leave shall be for a period of 12 calendar months. C, it may be taken outside Nigeria only. D, the leave shall be once in 5 years only. So question 43. Which of these is not one of the study leaves available in public service? So which of these is not one of the study leaves available in public service? A, study leave for research. B, study leave without pay. C, leave for in-service training. And then study leave with pay. So quickly the correct options. So for question 42, because 41 is already listed, so question 42 that says which of this is not correct about sabbatical leave? So A says that you must tender evidence of acceptance. Of course, this is correct. Then B, the leave shall be for a period of 12 months. Of course, that is true. Then C, it may be taken outside Nigeria only. No, sabbatical leave can be taken both within and outside Nigeria. So this C is not correct. Sabbatical leave can be within or outside Nigeria. The leave shall be taken once, and of course it is true that it's once in every 5 years. So option C is the correct answer, because sabbatical leave can be taken both within or outside Nigeria. Then for question 43, that say which of this is not one of the study leaves available in the public service? Of course, A, study leave for research. We don't have anything like for the study leave for research, but we have leave for in-service training. We have leave for leave without pay and leave with pay. Study leave without pay and study leave with pay. So the wrong one is study leave for research. There is nothing like that in public service. So that is the options. So 42 is option C. That says it may be taken outside Nigeria within Nigeria, no. Nigeria only, no. Then for question 43 is so moving forward, question 44. Question 44. Which of these is not a procedure or condition for granting sabbatical leave? So which of them is not a procedure or condition for granting sabbatical leave? A, sabbatical leave shall be closely linked to career progression in the service. B, the officer must be confirmed and must not be under a performance improvement plan or disciplinary action. And of course, 3, the assessment of benefiting officer must be of high performance record. Then 4, the request must be at the instance of the officer through written application to his superior 6 months in advance. And then 5, the applicant's MDA must certify that the staff member can be released to undertake sabbatical leave without replacement or impairing the smooth flow of the concerned department. And then 6, the period of sabbatical leave shall be treated as break in service. So that the period of sabbatical leave shall be treated as break in service. So the question that says which of them is not a procedure or condition for granting sabbatical leave. Then question 45. Okay, it continues. So still on 44, sorry. So for 7 says it must be ensured that the leave is taken not to coincide with a national assignment or significant project period that the applicant plays a critical role. So those are the options. So the question says which of them is not a procedure or condition for granting sabbatical leave. So, and of course, option 6 that says the period of sabbatical leave shall be treated as a break in service is not true. The period of sabbatical leave shall not be treated as a break. So this is not applicable. 6 is not applicable because period of sabbatical leave shall not be treated as a break in service. So, and of course, every other one, they are all applicable conditions. They are all the right procedures, except question 6 that says it shall be treated. The truth is that it shall not be treated as break. So, moving forward, okay, see more options, safe. Question, even more option 8 that says the request for sabbatical leave on the recommendation of the permanent secretary shall be forwarded to head of civil service for approval. Okay, so the correct answer, as I said, is still option 6. Option 6, it shall not be treated as break in service. But every other procedures are very correct. So the request, of course, is on recommendation of the permanent secretary and forwarded to head of civil service of the Federation. So moving forward, question 45. All of these are applicable to officers on sabbatical leave except A, officer on sabbatical leave shall not be granted notional promotion. B, officer on sabbatical leave shall not be granted, okay, so an officer on sabbatical leave shall continue to enjoy his emoluments within the period. C, officer on sabbatical leave shall be eligible to sit for promotion interview or examination at the nearest designated centers. Then D, officer on sabbatical leave shall only be considered for increment when they resume duty. So which of them is not applicable to officers on sabbatical leave? So question 46, the following are required from officers returning from sabbatical leave except A, to submit a notification of return to duty. B. Submit a detailed report of expenditures undertaken during the leave period. C. Submit a formal report on academic or administrative work accomplished during the leave period. And D. Upon an officer's return from sabbatical leave, he must work for the government for a period of 1 year before exiting the service. So quickly, the correct options, going to question 45 that says, all of these are applicable to officers on sabbatical leave except, so the only one that is not applicable is that, okay, A says officers on sabbatical leave shall not be granted notional promotion, which is true. Of course, that is applicable. So they shall not be granted notional promotion. Then B that says an officer on sabbatical leave shall continue to enjoy, which is true. Yes, he enjoys his emolument within that period. And then C, officer on sabbatical leave shall be eligible to sit for promotion. Of course, they are eligible to sit for promotion anywhere they are. You know, go to the nearest designated center from where they are. Then D that says officers on sabbatical leave shall only be considered for increment when they know this is wrong. So the correct option is D. So D is not applicable. Then for question 46, the following are required from officers returning from sabbatical leave except when they are returning now. So A that says to submit a notification of return to duty, yes, they will do that. Then B that says submit a detailed report of expenditures undertaken during the leave period. No, this is wrong. So they cannot submit a detailed report of expenditure taken during the leave year. No, that is out of it. So, but they can submit a detailed report of the academic or administrative work accomplished. Yes, that one is true. And of course, upon their return, they must work for government for at least 1 year before existing. But they cannot submit the detailed report of expenditure. That is wrong. So the correct option is B. So others are correct except B. Question 47 says define study leave. Study leave. So A, is the leave granted to a confirmed serving officer to undertake an examination? B, is the leave granted to a confirmed serving officer to undertake an approved course of study within the country only? Then C, is the leave granted to a confirmed serving officer to attend to personal matters within or outside the country? And D, is the leave granted to a confirmed serving officer to undertake an approved course of study within or outside the country? So what is study leave? Question 48. To grant any of the study leaves, the permanent secretary or head of extraministerial office has to satisfy all of the following except A, evidence of duration of the course. B, that the course is necessary to enhance the performance of the officer and to add value to the service. B, that the course is relevant to the officer's profession. And then 4, the cost of undergoing, so the cost of undergoing the course. And then 5, evidence of letter of admission. So quickly looking at the correct options, the correct answers. So for question 47 that says define study leave. Of course, study leave is the leave granted to a confirmed serving officer to undertake an approved course of study within or outside the country. That is option D is the correct option. The correct definition of study leave. So it's granted to a confirmed officer to undertake an approved course, of study within or outside the country. Then for question 48 that says to grant any of the study leaves, the permanent secretary or extraministerial office has to satisfy all of these except. So what is it that the permanent secretary will not satisfy? Of course, the cost of undergoing the course is not part of what he has to satisfy, but he has to satisfy evidence of letter of admission. He has to satisfy that the course is relevant to the officer's profession, and he also had to satisfy that the course is necessary to enhance the performance of the officer and to add value to the society, to the service. And of course, you also have to satisfy that evidence of duration of the course, but not the cost of undertaking the course. So that is the correct option. So for question 47 is D, and 48 is 4. So moving forward to question 49. Question 49. One of the following is not true about in-service training. So one of the following is not true about in-service training. A. In-service training shall be granted when the course is crucial to the MDA. B. In-service training shall be granted to officers employed with first degree only. C. In-service training shall be granted with normal emoluments, allowances, and course fees. And then D. Officers shall be granted in-service training for a period of 3 to 4 years. So which is not true about in-service training. Question 50. Question 50 says, which of these is false about study leave with pay? Which is false about study leave with pay? A. Study leave with pay shall be granted to an officer with normal emoluments. B. The duration of study leave with pay shall not exceed 2 years, but can be extended for 1 year if there is acceptable justification. C. It is granted when the course of study is relevant to the mandate of the MDA and the schedule of duty of the concerned officer. And then the government pays the course fee. So which is not true. So going further, for question 39, for question 49, the correct option. So the question says one of the following is not true about in-service training. So the option B that says in-service training shall be granted to officers employed without first degree, which is not true. It's not granted to only officers employed without first degree, no. So, but other ones are correct. So in-service training shall be granted when the course, of course, when the course is crucial to the MDA, of course, it can be granted, and the officer must also enjoy emoluments and allowances, and also the course fee, of course, and it shall be granted for a period of 3 to 4 years. Yeah, which is true, but it is not granted to only officers with first degree only, no. For question 50, which of these is false about study leave with pay? So option D. Option D is the correct answer. Government pays the course fee. No, it is not true. So, but it is granted when the course of study is relevant to the mandate of the MDA and the schedule of duty of the officer, which is correct. Then also the duration of study leave with pay shall not exceed 2 years, which is true. And of course, study leave with pay shall be granted to an officer with normal emoluments. Yeah, of course, they also pays the course fee. It's granted normal emoluments and even the course fee. So question 51. When can officer be granted study leave without pay? When can officer be granted study leave without pay? A. When the proposed course of study is crucial to the MDA and officer's career prospect or self-development. So when it can be granted without pay. B. When the proposed course of study is less than 2 years. When the proposed course of study is not contained in the approved training proposal for his MDAs, but relevant to the officer's career prospects or self-development. So when can officer be granted study leave without pay? So D, when the proposed course of study is relevant to the officer's career prospect and progression. So which of them can officer be granted study leave without pay? Question 52. Which of these is not conditions for approval of study leave without pay? So which of these is not a condition for approval of study leave without pay? A. Officers on study leave without pay are not entitled to normal emoluments and allowances. So which is not a condition. Then B. The duration of study leave without pay shall not be more than 4 years in the first instance, and officer can apply for 1 year extension if the need arises. Then C. The period of study shall be regarded as a break in service. And then D. The period of study shall not be regarded as a break in service. So which is the correct option? So going for question 51, the correct option for 51 that says, when can officer be granted study leave without pay? Of course, the officer is granted study leave without pay when the course of study is not among the approved course of study. But so when the proposed course of study is not, when the proposed course of study is not contained in the approved training proposal for the MDA, but relevant to officer's career prospects or self-development. So at this point, he can be granted study leave without pay. Then for question 52, which of this is not a condition for approved study of study leave? So which of this is not a condition for approve of study leave without pay? It's not a condition for approval of study leave without pay. So of course, the one that is not a condition is that the period of study shall be regarded as a break in service, which is not true. The period of study shall not be regarded as a break in service. So this is not true. So the C is not a condition. So moving forward to question 53. Question 53, it says, whose authority is it to approve the release of an officer on study leave? Whose authority is it to approve the release of an officer on study leave? A. Head of Civil Service of the Federation on the recommendation of the officer's permanent secretary or head of extraministerial office. B. Permanent secretary or head of extraministerial office on the recommendation of the officer's director. C. Federal Civil Service Commission on the recommendation of head of the service of the Federation. And then D. The departmental director on the recommendation of his superior officer. So whose authority is it to approve the release of officer on study leave? Then question 54. 54. Special leave can be granted to officers on full pay on compassionate ground for the burial of spouse, child, parents of spouse for a maximum duration of, so what is duration, whereby special leave can be granted to for burial. So option A, 4 weeks, B, 3 weeks, C, 2 weeks, and then D, 1 week. So question 55. Which of these is correct about officers desiring to go for religious pilgrimage other than officials assigned to cover such activities? So when officers decide to go for religious pilgrimage, A. They shall be granted special leave. B. They shall use part of their annual leave for the purpose. C. They shall be considered for leave of absence. And then D. They shall be considered for a rebate. So which is correct about officers desiring to go for religious pilgrimage other than officers assigned to cover such event? So quickly looking at the correct options. So for question 53, that says, whose authority is it to approve the release of an officer on study leave? So is the authority of the head of the Civil Service of the Federation on the recommendation of the permanent secretary. So that is option A. The head of Civil Service of the Federation on recommendation of the officer's permanent secretary or head of extraministerial office. So he approves the release of officer for study leave. Then for question 54 that says special leave can be granted to officers on full pay on compassionate ground for the burial of spouse, child, or whatever, I think child, parents, or the parents of spouse for a maximum duration of was, of course, 2 weeks. 2 weeks. So can be granted special leave for 2 weeks for burial of spouse, parents, or child, or his parents. So 2 weeks. Then for question 55 that says which of this is correct about officer desiring to go for religious pilgrimage? They shall do so using part of their annual leave for the purpose. So they shall use part of their annual leave, that is option B, for the purpose. So that is that. So moving forward to question 56. Question 56. What is leave of absence? What is leave of absence? A is an authorized absence of an officer from duty on grounds of medical trip. B is absence of an officer from duty authorized on grounds of public policy. C is absence of an officer from duty authorized by the head of the civil service. D is an authorized absence of an officer from duty to join spouse on national assignment. So what is leave of absence? A, 57. Question 57. The approval for leave of absence is given by who? So who gives approval for leave of absence? A, the Civil Service Commission on the recommendation of the head of civil service of the Federation. B, the Civil Service Commission on the recommendation of the Permanent Secretary or head of extraministerial office. C, the Secretary General of the Federation on the recommendation of the head of civil service of the Federation. And then D, the head of civil service of the Federation on the recommendation of the Permanent Secretary or head of extraministerial office. So whose authority is it to approve the leave of absence? So quickly looking at the correct options, going to question 56. The correct option for 56 that say what is leave of absence? And of course, leave of absence is on the ground of public policy. So it's option B is an absence of an officer from duty authorized on grounds of public policy. That is option B. Then for question 57, I said the approval for leave of absence is given by who? Of course, it's given by the head of the civil service of the Federation on the recommendation of the Permanent Secretary or head of extraministerial office. Option D. So for question 58. Question 58. Mention any 3 leave of absence in public service. Mention any 3 leave of absence in public service. A, leave of absence to join spouse on course of instruction of not less than 9 months duration abroad. B, leave of absence on grounds of public policy for technical aid programs. 3, special leave of absence to join spouse on grounds of public policy. Then 4, leave of absence for spouse of presidents, vice presidents, governors, deputy governors on grounds of what? Public policy. 5, leave of absence for special or personal assistance on grounds of public policy. So question 59. Question 59 says an officer is eligible for free passage at government expense to join his spouse proceeding abroad on a course of instruction where the course of instruction is A, not less than 9 months, B, not less than 12 months, C, not less than 8 months, and D, not less than 6 months. So when can the spouse have free passage at government expenses when the spouse is on course of instruction abroad. So for what duration can the spouse be eligible for passage? So quickly looking at the correct options for so for question 58 is already listed. Then for question 59, an officer is eligible when the course of instruction is not less than 9 months. That is option A, when it's not less than 9 months. So the spouse can go on free passage at government expense. Then for question 60, which of the following is not a condition on grounds of public policy for a spouse of serving officer to be granted leave without pay to enable him join his spouse on posting abroad? So which of the following is not a condition on grounds of public policy for a spouse of serving officer to be granted leave without pay to enable him join his spouse on posting abroad? So A, that the officer's spouse should be disallowed from taking up gainful employment and the leave shall be regarded as break in service. Okay, and the leave shall not be regarded, yes, and the leave shall not be regarded as break in service. So note that the spouse should not be allowed, should be disallowed from taking up gainful employment, and the leave should not be regarded as break in service. Then B, the leave may be granted with pay for a period not exceeding 5 years. So C, the leave shall be 4 years in the first instance and subject to an extension of not more than 1 year. So D, where the spouse improve himself by acquiring additional qualification which enhance his usefulness to the service, he shall be considered for advancement in consonance with the prevailing regulations. So quickly, question 61. What kind of leave shall be granted to the officer selected for Technical Aid Corps program by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs? A, sabbatical leave. B, study leave without pay. C, leave of absence. And then D, study leave with pay. So what kind of leave can be granted on officers on Technical Aid Corps? So quickly looking at the correct options, going back to question 60, that says which of the following is not conditioned on grounds of public policy for a spouse of serving officer to be granted leave without pay to enable him join his spouse on posting abroad? So of course the one that is not a condition is option C, that says the leave shall be 4 years. Okay, so no, let me see. Okay, that is option B, that says the leave may be granted with pay. Yes, so the correct option is option B, that says the leave may be granted with pay for a period not exceeding 5 years, which is not true. Leave of absence is without pay. Leave of absence is without pay. So this is not a condition, but every other one is condition. Of course, the wife must not take any gainful employment, and of course the period is not regarded as a break in service, and of course if the spouse improve himself, he can be considered for advancement, so in consonance with the prevailing regulation when he comes back. And of course the leave shall be for 4 years in the first instance and subject to extension to 1 more year and nothing more. So but the leave cannot be with pay. It cannot be with pay. Leave of absence is not given with pay. So option B is the correct option. Then for options for question 61, that say what kind of leave shall be granted to officers on Technical Aid Corps? Of course, the kind of leave that can be granted to officers on Technical Aid Corps is still leave of absence. It's leave of absence. So question 62. Question 62 says the following shall guide the leave of absence. The following shall guide the leave of absence except A. Leave of absence shall be without pay. B. Officer on leave of absence shall not accept any paid employment without previously obtaining the express approval from the office of the head of the civil service of the Federation. So which of these shall not guide the leave of absence? So C. Leave of absence shall cover spouses of appointees as secretary to government of the Federation, ministers, secretary to the state government, commissioners, or any other political appointee. So, and then D, leave of absence shall not be excess of 5 years. So which, the question said, which the following shall guide the leave of absence except. So which of these is not a guide to leave of absence? Question 63. Which of these officers is not covered by leave of absence? A. Spouse of chief judge. B. Spouse of governors. C. Spouse of the president. And then D. Spouses of vice president and deputy governors. So quickly going to the correct options for question 62. Says the following shall guide the leave of absence except C. See that says leave of absence shall cover spouses of appointees as secretary to the government or the federation, ministers, secretary. No, leave of absence does not cover these people. It does not cover people on political appointments. So the correct option is C. Then the same thing in 63 too, that says which of these officers is not covered by leave of absence? Of course, spouses of a chief judge is by appointment, is not covered by leave of absence. But governors, spouses of governors, presidents, vice presidents, deputy governors are covered by leave of absence. So moving forward, question 64. What is the duration of notice required to be given to retire from service before the effective date of retirement? What is the duration of the notice required to be given to retire from service before the effective date of retirement? A. 6 months. B. 5 months. C. 4 months. And then D. 3 months. 65. Officer recommended by a medical board as medically unfit to continue in service and for that reason be disengaged shall be given vacation leave period to retirement. A. 5 months. B. 4 months. C. 3 months. And then D. 2 months. So what is the duration for an officer declared to be medically unfit? 66. Question 66. The date of commencement of a vacation leave by an officer medically declared unfit by medical board shall be. So what date shall he commence that vacation leave? A. The date he was hospitalized. B. The day he was declared medically unfit to continue. C. The date he stopped to perform his duty due to illness. And then D. 3 days after being declared medically unfit. So quickly, the correct options. So for question 64, that say what is the duration of notice given, notice required to be given to retire from service before the effective date of retirement? Of course, the duration 3 months. 3 month notice shall be given. Then for question 65, that says okay, for an officer recommended by a medical board as medically unfit to continue in service and for that reason be disengaged shall be given, of course, 2 months vacation leave period to the retirement. So a medically declared officer as unfit is given 2 months vacation leave period to the retirement. Then for question 66, the date of commencement of a vacation leave, of course, shall be the very day he was declared medically unfit. That is B, the date he was declared medically unfit to continue. That same day, he shall commence the vacation leave period to retirement. So that is question 66. Question 67. Which of these is expected of a retiring officer? within the last 3 months of his service. So within the last 3 months of an officer, what is he expected to do? A, be more active in the office and ensure to carry out the remaining projects for the year if he is the director of the department. Sorry, this should be if he is the director of the department. Then B, make amends with the officers in the department. C, proceed for 1 month pre-retirement workshop, then use the remaining 2 months to put his records straight for the payment of his benefits. And then D, proceed for vacation and travel out if desired. Question 68. Federal Public Service officers who accepted appointment as special or personal assistants to political office holder and who wish to return to office at the end of the assignment are required to apply to A, the permanent secretary for leave of absence on grounds of public policy. B, the Federal Civil Service Commission for leave of absence on grounds of public policy. C, the head of the Civil Service of the Federation for leave of absence on ground of public policy. And then D, the Secretary General of the Federation for leave of absence on grounds of public policy. So whom did they apply to? So quickly looking at the correct options, going back to question 67 that says which of these is expected of a retiring officer within the last 3 months? Of course, within the last 3 months of a retiring officer, he is supposed to proceed 1 month pre-retirement workshop, then use the remaining 2 months to put his records straight for the payment of his benefits. So that is option C, the correct option for 67. For 68, which says Federal Public Service officers who accepted appointment as special or personal assistants to political office holder and who wish to return to office at the end of the assignment are required to apply to. So they are required to apply to the head of the Civil Service of the Federation for leave of absence on grounds of public policy. That is option C. Is also the correct option for question 68. So with that, we have come to the end of the lesson on leave. Thank you so much, and please, if you are yet to hit the subscribe button, kindly do well to hit the subscribe button, and also give us a thumb up, like us. Let's have your comment, and most importantly, share this material to your friends and colleagues. Let them also benefit. If it's of value to you, it will also be of value to them. So what next on our lesson? The next topic is performance management system. Performance management system. So see you on the next lesson, and always check back to know when it's uploaded. And of course, if you subscribe, YouTube will always notify you whenever a new video is uploaded, and it will also make the previously uploaded ones available to your page. So thank you so much. God bless you. We meet in the next lesson, performance management system.